From the crossroads of the Ozarks, this is P.I.D. Radio. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and welcome to our house. Yes, the barn is still there. It's fine. Nothing happened to the barn. We're in the house because we have a new member to the family.
Yes. As of last night, that would be Friday the 16th, went to Springfield to rescue a puppy. And so anyway, rather than leaving her alone in the home, we decided to bring the wireless mics out here, record out here, and produce later. But Grace is now got a little sister.
You know what? Her name is Morning Glory Gilbert. We just call her Miss Glory. And little Glory, we think might be a Border Collie Lab mix. So a Borador.
It sounds like something from Tolkien.
Doesn't it, though? I love it. Like Boromir.
Yeah.
She makes little noises, too, like she's got a horn or something.
She sounds like a tribble.
She's so, seriously, she does. She makes cute sounds. Well, her story, and we'll put this at Grace's rescue page, but also elsewhere on Facebook. Glory's story is that some young people up in Springfield who already had 3 dogs of their own happened to be driving on a very busy expressway in Springfield and saw someone leave a very small puppy on the side of this expressway.
Right.
And they noticed that people were slowing down because the little dog was in the road.
It wandered out into the road. And so they stopped and took her in and took her home. But
took their lives into their hands by doing that busy expressway.
Kansas Expressway. It's not a limited access like an interstate highway, but it's 6 lanes there.
Yeah, it's pretty busy.
And it was right outside the Walmart Supercenter. We've got a lot of traffic going in and out. So, in fact, that's why they were there. They were buying food for their dogs, they told me. So she was dodging traffic dodging her. They stopped, picked her up, brought her in, but they couldn't keep her because they've already got 3 dogs where they're living. So anyway, they looked for somebody, and Sharon jumped quickly. There's a wonderful Facebook page.
I love this page.
Yeah, Lee's Lost and Found.
Named for a local television reporter that decided that she wanted to help animals that needed a new home.
Right.
And many of them had no home at all. It wasn't that they were being rehomed from one home to another. It's that they simply were living on the streets.
Yeah.
And this little puppy would have been dead.
Yeah.
Had this couple not gotten her. So we're delighted that she's now part of our pack.
Yep. And she will be making her first visit to Dr. Bader today to get checked out.
Make sure she's healthy and everything.
Get her initial Bordetella and other vaccines.
So we can take her to Miss Eileen's and leave her when we are busy recording programs at Skywatch TV.
Which we will be later this week. So we will... she will be thrown right into the mix, but Grace will show her the ropes, and I'm sure that the other dogs there at Miss Eileen's, she's wonderful. She is the dog whisperer, and she's got a bumper sticker on her car that says "Crazy Dog Lady."
Yeah, and she has several rescues of her own.
She does. Yeah, Mona is the one there now, but Sam became part of that pack when we had to travel, and so
he loved going over there. He would be over there sometimes for almost a month, and just be happy as Larry.
Yep.
And when we come home, he'd look at us like, "Oh, it's you. Be with you in a minute. Busy."
Yeah. So we feel very comfortable with that, but so we will.
She's found a sunbeam. She's found a sunbeam.
All right. Well, we've got some training to do yet, but
she's been going in the house. And going in the house. But that's what you expect with a puppy. We think she might be about 3 months old, weighs maybe 10 pounds. We'll find out today.
Yeah, really, really cute. If you haven't seen the picture, you can find
I posted pictures. I posted a video this morning.
Oh, okay.
Where she was playing with Lamb Chop.
Yeah. Yeah, she's taken to one of the toys that Grace really did. It's like, okay, well, stuffed lamb, big whoop. But Glory has adopted that as her favorite toy already.
So if you hear noises in the background or we have to say a word or two now and then, please forgive us.
Yep.
But there are lots of things going on in the news. One of them is the sudden death of Navalny, a gentleman who is the big opposition, has been in prison. He opposes Putin and had run against him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alexei Navalny was returned to Russia and was immediately imprisoned upon return. He's been portrayed by the corporate media here in the West as the leader of the opposition in Russia. Now, bearing in mind that the corporate media is generally repeating a narrative that the deep state wants put out there, I have to wonder how much of a leadership role did Navalny actually have?
Possibly none. It reminds me of Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He was this opposition leader for a long time. I think it was maybe before Putin and slightly after. It's been a while.
Yeah.
A poet and a writer who opposed the state, so to speak. But Putin will be up for election, I think, in another month.
Yeah.
Re-election.
Right. So it was strange because Navalny, that is, made a court appearance on Thursday via Skype or something, and then suddenly, or Wednesday, and then suddenly the next day, Thursday, he was reportedly dead.
Yeah.
He went out for a walk and then died.
That I've heard that story. I've heard other versions of it, that he suddenly had a fever on his bed and he was dead.
Yeah.
Something weird may be going on there. I'd say it's very likely. But you were telling me this morning, honey, that you have also read that there is a claim, or there was a belief, that Navalny was working with the West.
That he was a British intelligence asset who had been working with MI6 to try to overthrow the regime, to basically stir up a color revolution inside Russia. I've also seen that claim debunked, that the video that purportedly documented Navalny talking with an MI6 agent was actually of some other Russian guy from 10 years ago. And, so there is a propaganda war constantly on the internet. And so we have to, the two questions that we always have to ask. Number one, is it true? Number two, who benefits if we believe it?
Exactly. We, being the West, have a history of trying to overthrow regimes when that regime won't play ball with us.
Exactly. And so the response from heads of state in the West, the leader of Latvia accusing Putin of brutally murdering Navalny, the prime minister of Estonia calling Putin and his government a rogue regime, the NATO secretary Jens Stoltenberg saying Russia has serious questions to answer, Kamala Harris, our vice president, saying that whatever story they tell, let us be clear, Russia is responsible, and we will have more to say on this later.
She probably has a Venn diagram with the West and the East and somewhere Navalny in the middle.
Yep. Let's see, one of our senators, Tom Tillis, he's a Republican from North Carolina. Putin is a murderous, paranoid dictator. Nikki Haley, Republican presidential candidate. Putin did this. The same Putin who Donald Trump praises and defends. So everybody is spinning this for their own political gain. I'm a little stunned to see Nikki Haley going that far in criticizing.
Yeah. Now, here's a question, a what if question. What if Navalny had died prior to the Tucker Carlson interview? How would Tucker have handled that?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I think he would have asked it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And
Putin would have had a smooth answer, let's face it.
Yeah.
No one dances as well as he does politically. He dances very well.
He does, yeah. And to the best of my knowledge, Carlson did not ask Putin at all about Navalny. He was in prison.
I'm not aware that he asked him at all.
Yeah, I don't think
that's
he did.
A known factor that we've known about for at least maybe a decade, going back to 2014, I think, or earlier. He'd been in prison for quite a while. I've been reading about Navalny there are documentaries out there about Navalny if you want to watch.
Right. His wife, Navalny's wife, was Yulia, was at the Munich Security Conference while this happened.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the Munich Security Conference is the event that Kamala Harris attended a year ago, and in Biden's stead.
Yes, Zelensky is there now. I saw an interview with him with all of the big board behind him that was advertising the event and had various like Bayer company, we call it Bayer over here, Bayerische over, had its little logo behind him as well. That just kills me that you've got security conferences that are clearly governmental that are sponsored.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's called the military-industrial complex.
Yes. And what official capacity they have, I don't know, but it clearly is a world stage, and very interesting that Navalny's wife was there when this happened. Now, the question is this: who benefits from Navalny's death? Certainly,
Yes.
wouldn't seem Putin would have any benefit. I mean, the guy was already in a prison in the Arctic Circle. So
yeah, they had just recently moved him
just
to
3 weeks
a more
ago.
secure location, and that in itself is a question for me. How is it he suddenly died shortly after you moved him?
Right. He'd been there for about 3 weeks, but why turn him into a martyr? Why not just leave him there to fade away?
Yeah.
Navalny's 47 years old, reportedly to this point had been in good health, but to go out for a walk and then come back in and fall unconscious and die sounds like poisoning to me.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
But again, who benefits from turning him into a martyr?
Exactly. And even if they do an autopsy and the results come back and say, oh, he died of natural causes. Look, what doctor is going to oppose Putin's, okay, this is the official statement. And here's the other part. There are individuals beneath Putin and around Putin who would love to take over for him. He's been in place 20 years. 22 years. They would love to take him out.
Yeah.
And so is it possible that someone else did it and is blaming Putin?
Well, I think that's entirely possible. Politics is a blood sport, and that is not just being,
No, it's literal in some
rhetorical cases. Or hyperbolic. It in some cases it is literal. The fact is that with Navalny's death, all of Putin's main rivals are either deceased or living in exile. But he's also very popular with the Russian people. So I think anybody who's looking at challenging Putin for leadership in Russia has to deal with the fact that he's got a lot of popular support.
Yeah, I think he'll win again.
Yeah. I mean,
and is the election rigged? I don't know.
Well,
is there a 100% fair election anywhere in this world?
Well, we can talk a little bit about that perhaps if we want to get canceled.
Oh, we won't go. No. We won't go there because there are other things to talk about.
There are things to talk about. Now, last weekend, you mentioned Tucker Carlson. We did watch the Tucker Carlson Vladimir Putin interview. And I think what's really interesting is the way the response to Tucker Carlson is missing the point. On the one hand, you get people who are saying, Carlson is, everything up to and including a traitor to the United States for interviewing Vladimir Putin, ignoring the fact that there were a number of corporate media news talking heads who have interviewed Putin over the past 22 years, and nobody said anything like that about, the approved journalist. But now that Tucker has gone rogue, they rolled out they rolled out Hillary Clinton, kind of wheel her out on a dolly. Is like, here, Hillary, say some bad things about Tucker, and she did dutifully.
And you have a great suit on. I love your suit.
Yeah, nice suit. So he was pilloried by Hillary.
No.
And I think, which is ironic, considering the role that she's had to play in the history of the last, 25, 30 years. We saw he died.
Yeah,
regarding
I know, but
Muammar Gaddafi.
Politicians rise and fall.
Yeah.
The Lord is still in control.
The Lord is still in control. And that, of course, is the thing that we Christians need to bear in mind. So on the one hand, you've got Carlson who's being vilified for the interview. On the other hand, you've got people who understand that there is a deep state in Washington, D.C., looking at the events of 2016 and 2020 and saying, Putin laying down some truth. As you said, I agree with you. Putin is a master politician who took the opportunity to make a case for his worldview, and how that connects to objective truth is, may or may not connect. But for me, the takeaway was this: he explained why he's done what he's done, and he started with that 30-minute history of Russia, going back to the Kievan Rus of the 9th century, 8th century.
He went way back. What I found interesting about his historical lesson, a lesson in history, teaching someone who majored in history.
Mm-hmm.
But mind you, we study Western history, not Russian history. Well, Putin was explaining pretty minutely there for a while, and then skipped over Napoleon and went to the World War I.
He did.
Skipped over Napoleon, skipped over the Russian czars that led up to the Russian Revolution and why there was a Russian Revolution.
Yep, he did. His summary of recent history, especially since World War II, is not the way we understand it in the West.
No.
And especially the last 30 years or so, where he explained why Russia is upset with NATO and the United States, because NATO promised Russia, we will never expand 1 inch to the west, to the east. We will not move to the east. And of course, that didn't happen. NATO has expanded 4 times now, and every time moving closer to Russia's borders, up to saying recently that that it is on the table for not just Ukraine, but Georgia, which is on Russia's southern border, to join NATO. And, for us as Americans, it's like, well, yeah, but we're the good guys. Yeah, but let's flip that on its head. What if Mexico were to suddenly announce it was going to join a military alliance with Russia or China, and suddenly we've got an ally of our major geopolitical rivals right on our border? The Cuban Missile Crisis is an example of how we would respond.
Exactly. Well, Putin was saying his excuse, because he said, no, we don't intend to expand. We never did. What you see happening, we had no choice in. He's leaving out the 19th century expansion of Russia taking over former Turk territories in Eastern Europe. And essentially Russian-speaking peoples were part of those areas, and that's his excuse. We had to save our Russian-speaking people because that region was primarily Russian.
The Donbass, Eastern Ukraine.
The Donbass and others.
And others.
The Crimea.
Crimea, right.
Yeah. So I think by saying that, he is saying to the West, if we find another area that is primarily Russian speakers, like that one carved out area going up through Latvia.
Yeah. Which used to be, what is that? The Kaliningrad?
Yes.
Kaliningrad.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if she wants to go outside. I'll keep talking.
That is that's the nice thing with the wireless mics. We can walk around.
I know. I'm walking over to the front door and I'm just letting Grace go outside because she wants to go chase birds.
Yep. Well, and you make a good point, and that relates to what again, my takeaway from this was that Putin made his case, but he made it as a politician who has a particular objective in mind, which is justifying his actions to the world and using the interview with Tucker Carlson to do it. So he's made his case and said, okay, here's why we did what we did. You guys expanded. You didn't, you lied to us. And he's not entirely wrong about this, again, with NATO saying we're not going to.
She's sad because Grace went outside and she didn't want to go outside.
and I've got my chew bone here and nobody to play with. Yeah. So
imagine if Russia
he made his case.
Yes.
And we may not agree with it. We may say, as you point out, what about these expansionist policies that led to the Crimean War, that led to various other conflicts in Eastern Europe? The response of the West to this point has been, your understanding of history is entirely wrong, and you have no reason, you have no justification for being angry.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah. The problem with that response is, instead of saying, okay, look, you've made your case, here's our case, and let's try to work toward finding some middle ground of compromise. We're just saying, nope, you're wrong and you're evil, and that is how we wind up in a shooting war.
Well, imagine, she's in my arms right now.
Yeah.
Imagine if Russia did come over and say to the head of Mexico, whoever that happened to be at the time, you know what, you've got a lot of Mexican speakers there in the Southwest, I can understand, and you've got a historical claim to that area.
Right.
We'll help you take it back.
The Anglo-Saxons took it from you in 1847, the Mexican-American War.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we will help you recover that territory.
Yeah. And then just push
Germany did that in World War I.
Yeah.
Tried to, anyway.
Well, France was
the Zimmerman letter?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. The question is, was the Zimmerman letter real or not?
True, yes.
There are many who think it was not.
British intelligence who actually floated that.
What do you
think? Again, the bottom line is this. We may disagree with Russia, but unless we are willing to sit down with Putin and say, okay, you've made your case, here's our case, now how can we reach a compromise that results in not dropping nuclear weapons on one another, we're going to wind up in World War III. In fact, we may already be in the early stages of it.
Oh, yes. Now, here's what's really interesting for me is the time of the year when all of this is taking place. That is February. It is a time of cleansing of the old and bringing in the new. And it's a celebration of the god Februus. Februalia is the season, but it also aligns with Lupercalia, which is something our friend Dr. Judd Burton has been studying very closely.
Yeah. He has analyzed, he did his doctoral dissertation on Caesarea Philippi, which is the Grotto of Pan, the base of Mount Hermon. And he, in his analysis of the sequence of events recorded in the Gospels, of course, we know that there was a period when Jesus went to the region of Tyre and Sidon. He healed the daughter of the Syrophoenician lady, went back to the Sea of Galilee, and then he went to Mount Hermon.
If you're hearing strange sounds, it's because she's now on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And her foot is right next to the microphone, so may have to move you, sweetie pie.
Yeah. Anyway, he believes that it was during this period of time, during this Februalia and Lupercalia, that Jesus took the disciples to the base of Mount Hermon. In Rome, that was also the time period where they celebrated Paternalia, which was the veneration of the ancestral spirits, which of course are actually demons.
And of course, here Jesus goes up there and says, hey, guess what? Guess who I am?
Exactly.
Come get me.
Yeah, that was because the declaration of his divinity at, the gates of hell will not prevail against my congregation, my assembly. Then he climbs Mount Hermon 6 days later. So, that is really fascinating stuff. But again, credit to Judd Burton for putting that together. And so you're right. It is interesting that all of this is taking place in February, and we're seeing this ramping up of the war drums against the Russians. And as all of this was happening, in fact, there was a story that popped out on Thursday. And this was just as the House of Representatives, which is here in the United States, the Republican Party controls it. It's got a narrow margin, but the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson of Louisiana, did not want to bring the Senate bill that was passed to the floor, and that was the Senate bill allocating $90 billion in foreign aid, 2/3 of that for Ukraine, $10 billion for Israel, and then some other stuff thrown in there as well, Taiwan's defense and all that. In other words, $90 billion that the United States doesn't have because we're already officially $33 trillion in debt, but I think the official number, when you include unfunded liabilities, is closer to $80 trillion.
Wasn't there some sort of dispute with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who said, I won't vote for this because there's no provision. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. No provision for, what's it? She said, feeding the hungry or something.
I don't know.
And it turned out that there were like $30 million that were allocated for that very thing in there.
Yeah.
And my comment was, has she read the bill?
Probably not, but they tend to throw these, bills that are hundreds of pages long at senators and representatives.
Well, the famous one.
Well, yeah, of course, the Patriot Act for one, but of course the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare.
When they're 2,000, 3,000 pages long, written by lobbyists.
And that was where then Speaker Nancy Pelosi said you have to pass the bill to see what's in it, to find out what's in it. Yeah. But just as Speaker Johnson said, we're not going to bring this bill to the floor. Yeah, ram it. There was a report that suddenly came out that Russia had developed some sort of anti-satellite weapon, and this was described as major, imminent, grave, terrifying security threat in some reports. So suddenly, just as the House of Representatives says, we're not going to take up this bill to borrow $90 billion and send $60 billion of it to Ukraine in what is a lost cause, suddenly this intelligence report, ostensibly, showing that Russia's got this terrifying bill, this terrifying threat to national security emerges, and then almost immediately gets walked back. Because Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis sent out an email to his email list pointing out that he's been writing about Russia's anti-satellite capabilities for years. His book, Future War, which came out shortly after we got here, back 2015, 2016, made that point back then.
I think you might still be able to get that.
Oh, yeah.
At Amazon at least, but probably through the Skywatch TV
Sure,
store.
Skywatch TV store has it. Bob McGinnis is very insightful, and he's got insider knowledge of what's going on. And he's been arguing that the Russians and the Chinese are major geopolitical threat, especially the Chinese going forward. But anyway, this grave anti-satellite threat, which threw everybody into a panic. It's like, we need to pass this bill in order to counter the Russians. Less than 24 hours later, it turned out to be, nothing really.
Yeah, nothing.
No immediate threat. We're not talking about a weapon that can be used to attack human beings or cause physical destruction on Earth. This is John Kirby, spokesperson for the National Security Council. Bottom line is that was thrown out there to basically freak people out and try to pressure Congress into passing, again, another $90 billion that we'd have to borrow by printing more money.
Yeah.
And hoping that somebody out there like China or Japan would buy up the treasury bonds used to finance that debt. So that's why Republicans in the House are saying, look, especially since you're not allocating any money to secure our borders, why should we borrow tens of billions more to try to secure Ukraine's borders or Taiwan's borders?
Amen. Now, let me left turn, to another topic that I watch every day. And many of you may also watch it every day, but I get the impression that most in government are not. At least they're not public about it. And that is the growing rise of H5N1 throughout the world. Year after year, we get more and more migratory birds and now many more mammals who are contracting and often dying of the influenza H5N1. H is hemagglutinin, it's how it gets into your cells. So this is type 5. Neuraminidase is the N, it's how it gets out of your cells. This is type 1. The Spanish flu was H1N1. This is H5N1, and it was usually found in migratory birds. Then it started showing up in flocks of birds in the southeast and in China. And then it started showing up in Canada and the United States. She's got a toy, Squeaky. The United States, and it can infect humans. It's rare, and to my knowledge, it's extremely rare that it goes human to human transmission. That can change with just 2 mutations. Just 2. And the more species it goes through, the more likely it is to have those mutations occur. And when that does, not if, when that does, it means that once again, the governments of the world will suddenly say, oh no, this is the thing we have to be worrying about. This was Clade X that we all said was going to happen. Now, it's possible it won't do that in the next 10 or 20 years. But boy, the rate at which I'm seeing mammals all the way up to the Arctic dying from this, dying in the dozens and hundreds in some cases. It's killed many hundreds of seals.
And of course, it's affected a lot of poultry producers here in the United States,
and it's getting
chicken and turkey.
Zoo animals, which means it's going to have more likelihood of interacting with human beings. And you can bet your bottom dollar that there is research taking place, honest research, I think in most cases, where someone is saying we've got to have a weapon against this. We have to know how to react when these two mutations happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Now, how do you do that? Well, you cause the mutations. We won't use that. Well,
gain of function.
Yeah, you said it.
No.
Boy, that'll get us kicked off now too. But that is something that's happening, and I bring it up because there's a chart out there, and I can't tell you how much credence to give it because I've not really done the research on it to see if it truly lines up. But there's a claim that a dozen or more events in 2020 have been lining up on almost the same exact time of year in 2023, 2024, especially the 2020 to 24. 2020 was an election year, 24 is an election year. If indeed this chart has some merit to it, it is designed by the fallen realm. It's designed by those who want to use human beings to prep the world to fight against Christ's return or to stop it. Just, hey, there are no humans left. There's no love left. No one is faithful. So don't even come.
Let's see. The interesting parallels. 2020, a leap year, so is 2024. Well, Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Taylor Swift drops a new album.
She does that every time she breaks up with someone.
Yeah.
There's another one coming soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Joe Biden running for president again.
Stumbling for president.
Yeah. Chicago Cubs have a new manager.
That's almost every 2 years.
Yeah, well, David Ross lasted a little longer than that, but I don't know what to.
David Roth is who they should have had.
David Lee Roth. Yeah, it would have been hilarious anyway. Well, we need to take a break. We are planning a short trip to Israel. We are calling a solidarity mission. We'll give you details on that and
much more.
Oh yes. George Soros buying up hundreds of radio stations here in the United States just in time for the election.
Oh, he just loves radio. That's all.
I'm sure that's probably fine. And that's straight ahead on P.I.D. Radio. It's a new month, and we have a new special at the Gilbert House online store.
We have a crazy, crazy deal on all of our DVDs. They are, regardless of the retail price, they are 75% off.
We keep hearing from the kids these days that everything is going to streaming video, that DVDs are old school.
Oh, not for us.
No, we are old school. And besides, we don't trust the internet will always be there. So take advantage of this special offer. Everything from our travel documentaries. Basically follow us as we go through the Holy Land and show you the important sites at Ground Zero on this supernatural war, plus video teachings, presentations, and much, much more.
You know, with 75% off savings on all the DVDs, as many as you want to get, you've got the money that you saved to go out and buy a DVD player.
That's it. Take advantage of it now online only at the Gilbert House store, gilberthouse.org/store. And thank you for your prayers and support. Welcome back to P.I.D. Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and over there is Glory Gilbert, and she's playing with Squeaky right now.
And Grace is lying down, just
enjoying the sun.
Yeah, it's 30 degrees outside, but she's just soaking up the sun on the front porch.
She's a little solar collector.
She is. She loves just observing the birds.
She'll do zoomies when she gets back in.
Yes, she will.
They were both doing zoomies last night.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Glory was... she's discovered, she can squeeze underneath the table in the living room.
Which is maybe 3 inches off the floor.
And Grace can't get under there. So she would, crawl in and she'd emerge from one side, then another side. And so they were having a lot of fun with
paw would come out.
That game, yeah. She was acting very cat-like.
Uh-huh.
You take that back.
And it's interesting. We have raised bowls for Grace. I mean, she's a medium-sized dog, but it's just more comfortable, especially a dog that can have digestive issues, and that breed sometimes does. So we raised it up, and it's a very comfortable height. Well, Gloria's decided, well, I can get that. I can reach that.
Stand on my back legs and get to the bowl. So
she's got her own bowls, mind you.
Yeah.
On the floor.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's always the way, though. If your sister or brother has something, that's always better than the one that you've got. So.
Well, we are going to be leaving those two beautiful girls with Eileen. She'll be taking care of them while Derek and I go to Israel.
This is something that was proposed by Lipkin Tours, our good friends at Lipkin Tours, Aaron Lipkin, Eddie Lipkin, and their team. A 1-week tour to bear witness to what has happened in Israel since October 7th. These would be areas that are secure, so we're not going into any zones where you'll need a flak jacket or anything like that. But we will go to Sderot in the Negev, which was the town where the police station was besieged.
Mm-hmm. There's no warfare going on there right now.
No.
So Sderot it's actually pretty calm.
Yeah, Sderot is actually quite a distance from the Gazan border. So it was really kind of amazing that shocking is the word, actually, that the Hamas terrorists got there. But anyway, there will also be a visit to a couple of the kibbutzim that were attacked on that day. This would be a one-day down in the south, Sderot, Nir Oz, and Re'im, and then a barbecue with IDF soldiers on that day, just to meet with them, support them. A day in Tel Aviv, visit to Hostage Square, visit an exhibition based on the Nova Music Festival, with basically memorializing some of those who were part of the worst attack on October 7th.
I've seen photographs of that memorial. It's beautiful.
Yeah. There'll be a visit to Gush Etzion, which we visited back in 2018.
It'll make you cry.
Yeah.
We saw it in 2019 as well.
Right. It was 2019, right. That is, it's like Israel's Alamo from 1948. There was a kibbutz that was overrun by the attacking Arab army, and and anyway, I can't do the story justice, but you have to watch everything. It's reenacted, so you see what it was like for those who were involved in it, and you hear the radio addresses. It's really remarkable. And spoilers, not gonna there's more, but I'm not gonna give that away. Then 2 days in Jerusalem. Of course, all of the hotel accommodations will be in Jerusalem. 4-star hotel there, and then 2 days spent touring in Jerusalem, the Mount of Olives, the actual historical locations of the crucifixion and resurrection.
And by that we mean not the ones that generally
on the
you
tours,
get to visit.
Right.
Yeah, you can go to those if you want to. We may be able to put that, but we're going to take you to the ones that Zev Porat did research, and those are the ones that it is believed where it really happened. And it makes sense when you look at the actual arrest story and the rules for the Romans.
First century Roman law, yeah. And in fact, I followed up Zeb's research to just corroborate.
Look, no. Hi. Come on over here.
Just come underneath the table.
Come here. Which has got an expansion thing. Come here. Come up here.
Yeah, there we go. So anyway, that'll be on the tour. Temple Mount is also on the itinerary, as well as the City of David. So all of this is part of the 7-day solidarity mission to Israel. The cost in U.S. dollars, $1,950 for the land package only. That doesn't include airfare to get to Tel Aviv and back.
Yeah.
But
there are also lunches on your own and tips for the driver and your guide. And so probably most of the time you can get a round-trip ticket for about $1,000 or so.
Yeah.
Flying to Tel Aviv and back. You can, if you've got points that you need to use up, that's a good way to do it.
Mm-hmm. And so this will be, the sign-up should be available at the website, Lipkin Tours website, here within the next week or so. I know that they've been putting together the itinerary and getting the website updated, but Gilbert's in Israel will be the place where you can go. You can also, just for information, if you just want to take a look at the itinerary, I'll post that later today at gilberthouse.org/travel.
Yeah.
But Gilbert's in Israel will be the place to go to sign up. This will be May 6th, arriving in Tel Aviv May 7th, through May 13th. And that will be, again, our solidarity mission, just to kind of bear witness, see what happened there without the filter of the Western media kind of processing the information for us. Yeah, she does seem to like that sunbeam over there by the door. Oh,
she does.
Yeah, she just flopped over. Hi, Grace.
Watch your.
Yeah, I know. Stay down.
And while you are looking at gilbertsinisrael.com, and that site will take you to Lipkin Tours page. It'll just forward over to it. But Gilbert's in Israel is always going to work for our tours. You may still see the November date for this year's tour, but we have now changed this year's tour. It was originally going to be in the spring. We changed it to November, but because that's the election here in the U.S., we are moving it to next spring. So it will be in 2025. So the bottom line is the next full tour we take will be in 2025, and we're praying that by then all the archaeological sites in the north will be open again. Right.
The dates for our 2025 tour, March 25th through April 3rd, and then there's a 3-day optional extension into Jordan. Our guests, Pastor Doug Van Dorn, Dr. Judd Burton, and we're still holding out hope that Timothy Alberino, who's now been rescheduled twice.
He's busy doing something.
So, waiting to get confirmation on Tim Alberino.
Incommunicado for a while.
But we definitely have Doug Van Dorn and Judd Burton coming with us, and we encourage you to join us for the full tour, because in addition to the sites that we've just discussed, those archaeological sites in the north are very important. Capernaum, the Sea of Galilee, but even further north, like Caesarea Philippi, which right now is part of that zone that's been evacuated. We pray that by next spring that is all open up. So,
by the way, when is the cutoff date? When we go through May the 6th of this year for the Solidarity Tour?
May 6th through May 13th.
Okay. Oh, darn. May 14th is the anniversary of becoming
Israel's,
a nation.
Yeah. Well, we'll celebrate a day early. Monday the 13th would be the date of return.
Yes. But, well, let me find out when Independence Day is over there, because it's a different thing.
That's true, because they base it on the Hebrew calendar, which is a lunar calendar, rather than the solar calendar we use in the
May 13th.
Well, sweet. So we will be there, and that will be 40 is the 76th year.
Yeah.
76th anniversary.
Well, that would be lovely.
So, well, meanwhile, here in the U.S., back to our political ranting, at least for just a minute, George Soros is buying up 220 U.S. radio stations. This is the second largest radio group in the United States. I was surprised.
To be possible to do that.
No. Back when I got into radio back in the early 80s, there was still that 777 rule, and that changed under Reagan, where they deregulated. But yet it used to be 7 AM, 7 FM, and 7 TV. Okay. So you could have 21 broadcast outlets, but
control the message through 21.
Yeah.
Essentially.
But that changed, and when they deregulated, you had some radio groups that just expanded to the point where you had 1,200, 1,500 stations in a group. This is described in news accounts as the second largest radio group in the U.S., and it's only 220 stations. I was surprised to find that, but I've not kept up with industry news since I got out of the industry 30 years ago.
Is Sinclair Group the largest?
I think Sinclair mainly is television.
Oh, is it? Okay.
The big radio groups.
I do know that they're big too.
Yeah, I think iHeartRadio is the big one. That used to be a different name, but this is the Odyssey.
Yes, I heard. They have 850 stations. Okay,
because there were some radio groups that for a while there were upwards of 12 and 1,400 stations. Susquehanna, J-Corps, and this is going back years ago. Like I said, I've not kept up with the industry.
Yeah.
But Odyssey's got 220 stations and its own app, which they were trying to use to encourage people to re-engage with radio. The advantage to somebody for owning that many stations is that you can, and this was where Sinclair got some unwanted attention about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, where somebody
a couple of years ago
did a supercut of news reporters, news anchors on various Sinclair stations reading the same editorial.
Now, Sinclair is a conservative.
Right. But it highlights the influence that a large broadcast organization can have when you consolidate the means of communicating information, news, editorial, whatever, in just a few small hands, which has been the case. I mean, you've got, 7 companies that control the majority of broadcast communications, entertainment companies, publishing, and so on.
And as you well know, honey, and some of you radio guys out there, guys and gals may know this as well, that voice tracking is now the popular way to save money.
Oh, sure.
So you don't have someone actually on the air.
Right.
It might just be, one person recorded the news for 100 stations.
Yeah. And that will sometimes lead to some very weird errors. I was listening to one of the talk radio stations out of Springfield yesterday as I was driving up to Springfield to collect Glory, and I noticed that they seemed to be out of sync. That the afternoon talk show host was in the middle of something and was suddenly cut off by a weather forecast or something, was in the middle of a sentence, and suddenly they cut to a commercial break. Now, even back in 2006, when I had my midlife crisis and had to go back into radio,
Did you know that happened to Daddy? Talking to Grace now.
No.
Did you know that?
No, Dad's never been middle-aged. He's always been old. The stations were controlled by computers. And it was kind of hilarious because in 2006, the station automation was Windows 95. Yeah. But with the syndication services coming in via satellite, we would have to program in the commercial breaks. We would record in advance the news updates and the weather forecasts. And before leaving for the night, you would record 2 weather forecasts, one that ran through midnight and then another one that would run in the overnight hours. And then the 6 stations that operated from our building in Columbia, Missouri, would all be overseen by one guy.
Yeah.
One dude was watching the automation set up on 6 different stations. Well, I think what happened was somehow the program yesterday afternoon on the station in Springfield was pre-recorded. It was like a best of for the afternoon host, and they got one segment off. And at 5:45, as I was driving up there, you heard the sign off and the station's legal identification, which according to FCC rules comes at the top of the hour. That's where they say the station call letters in the city of license. And that was at 5:45, and I'm like, okay, I know what's happened here. Somehow the computer kicked out a segment, or they forgot to save a segment, and so it jumped ahead, and the last segment of the program is not going to air. So I was listening, and I was kind of curious, how are they going to cover for this? Because there were times when our system would lock up or go down, and I'd get a call at like 5 a.m.
Oh, I remember.
Derek, station is off the air, and I don't know. They went 15 minutes of dead air. And then at 6 o'clock, they picked up again with the top of the hour news.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, but this is how broadcast operations work today. You don't generally, except in some of the largest cities, that are making lots of money, like your legacy stations like KMOX in St. Louis, WGN in Chicago. You don't have a live body there broadcasting in real time all night long. So especially in smaller markets, you'll have somebody, as you say, voice tracking, recording. I know I've got a break here where I'm going to be talking about this song, and I've got 20 seconds. And so they will sit in a room, they could do it in a setup like we've got out there in the barn.
Some do, yeah.
Yeah, and record all of your breaks for an entire 4-hour show, upload it to a server someplace, and then that gets plugged in. And so one guy in Cincinnati can be doing a broadcast in Cincinnati, and then another one in Pocatello, and another one in Paducah, and another one in Punxsutawney or whatever.
Yep.
And
for groundhogs.
Yeah, and it saves a lot of money, but the editorial control, especially on the talk and news stations.
Glory came over and grabbed Grace's tail.
She pounced.
She did. It was like she grabbed it and then backed right away. Well, I know, I saw it.
Yeah, that was pretty feisty there. So anyway, that is consolidating the editorial control of what goes out over those stations in a few hands. And so it's very interesting that George Soros, who is well known for wanting to interfere in American politics, that's what he figured out years ago, that the way to do that most effectively is to back district attorneys because they choose who to prosecute in local. Anyway, he's got a bid in on a bankruptcy filing for Odyssey, and he could wind up in control of these 220 stations.
Well, here's my comment. Not only will he control these stations, that means that these stations are consolidated under one umbrella control node, if you want to put it that way, a master node.
Mm-hmm.
If you can hack the master node, then you can have a foreign actor proceed to use his or her message or their message and disseminate it with a perfect American accent to all of those stations.
Yep. And that is
interfering with, we'll just say, selections.
Yeah.
Selection interference.
She is really feeling
She's
her
getting
oats this
kind of
morning.
bold.
Yeah. Well, not all of these 220 stations are talk or news stations. A lot of them are music stations. The Odyssey app is one way they were trying to, and this is something that in broadcasting.
Well, yes, but they still have news breaks.
Maybe. Some of them might, yeah.
Even a music station will usually have some sort of
at least during the morning show.
Or breaking news. If something were to come in, here's that Red Dawn moment when suddenly every radio station in the country broadcasts the same warning.
Yeah.
Something is coming to the United States. It's going to be, arriving here in the next 10 minutes. Seek shelter, seek shelter, seek shelter.
Right.
Who knows? I mean, hey, look, I've seen enough disaster movies in my lifetime, and I'm a writer, for goodness sake. I know, I'm a writer.
So we will see how this works out. The interesting thing is, because I've got the Odyssey app on my phone. I just don't use it very often. I don't drive long enough distances to, it's a cheap way, especially if you've got unlimited data like we do on our plans, of getting the same kind of service that you get from Sirius XM. Basically, you're streaming the radio station, so it doesn't really matter whether you're pulling in the FM signal or AM signal.
Right.
But the Odyssey app also has podcasts.
Yes.
So they're trying to find a way to make radio relevant. When you're listening for local news and school closings and stuff, you can't beat local radio for that. But
she's wrestling with Grace's bed.
Well, she's a puppy. She doesn't know what she's doing yet. But what I think is hilarious is that at the end of all of this, I went and double checked on the Odyssey app, and hey, guess what? You can listen to P.I.D. Radio, the Gilbert House Fellowship, A View from the Bunker, and Unraveling Revelation on the Odyssey app. So if George Soros buys that app, we will be behind his lines and broadcasting. We won't
stay on there for very long, will we?
Well, it remains to be seen how he chooses to use the app and what he basically is buying up the debt in the bankruptcy filing for like 50 cents on the dollar. It's not yet approved by the bankruptcy court, but we'll see what happens there.
That's another thing to mention is that with H5N1 and many other things taking place in the world, warfare, that all of that is affecting the economy. And so people are being forced to economize. If you are a radio station and the economy goes south, gets worse, then you will need to go bankrupt or find a way to refinance.
Well, yeah.
And that's when people step in. The big fish gobble up the little fish. Right.
That's the time when the big fish get bigger because they buy up the ones that are going out. What was really interesting is that this past week, Paramount is the parent company of CBS now, or CBS, the parent company of Paramount. I'm not sure how that works. Anyway,
Plus is the streaming.
Right. They ran an ad on during the Super Bowl, which featured a number of programs you can access through Paramount Plus. Sir Patrick Stewart was a guest on that was featured in that ad. And the week after they ran that ad, suddenly they lay off hundreds of employees, including reporter Catherine Herridge, who is
spend all their money on the ad.
I don't know, but reportedly those ads were going for like $50 million per slot. So they spent $50 million on the ad, and then suddenly Paramount Plus and CBS News had to lay off hundreds of employees, including
the new Enron.
Yeah. How do we make money on this streaming thing? I don't know. Yeah, the streaming video wars are claiming victims. Netflix seems to be surviving, but Paramount Plus
Yes.
which I do watch because it's got all the Star Trek, all the Star Trek reruns on it.
Yeah, I know you do.
So watching it, but yeah, they're losing a lot of employees. Media is consolidating. And again, the timing of this is interesting as we're heading into the election cycle. Also interesting, I think, is the fact that
the
selection cycle, yes, that
selector twos, they're not just for women anymore.
Yeah, Fargo reference is that President Biden seems to be getting the message from the deep state seems to be sending a message to President Biden that it's time for him to go. Here's a pasture over here. Go enjoy yourself. Right. A week ago Thursday, the special counsel Robert Hur said, "Okay, we're not going to prosecute him for mishandling secret documents, but the reason we're not going to prosecute him is because
no, we don't."
She's still learning that. The reason we aren't going to prosecute the president is because he's a kindly old man with a poor memory, that kind of thing. Basically said he's not mentally competent. We wouldn't be able to get. Now, I don't think
But he can run.
That's the thing.
He's too incompetent to be held liable in a court of law, but he can run for president of the United States and have access to the nuclear codes.
Well, that's it. And people are picking up on that. And President Biden went out that Thursday night and had a press conference where he confused the president of Egypt as the president of Mexico. And he got really angry and defensive. And the corporate media, some of the corporate media anyway, dutifully reported what he'd said, because President Biden said that the special counsel had asked him about the death of his son, Beau, who died of cancer at the age of 47. And President Biden's response was, "How dare he ask me that? I thought when he asked me the question, what bleep business is it of his? It's none of his bleep business." NBC News reported this past week, and it fell by the name of Ken Delanian wrote this story. Delanian is well known as a mouthpiece for the intelligence community.
Oh, interesting.
He reported that according to the special counsel, it wasn't her who asked about Beau. President Biden raised the death of his son, and her just said, "Okay, something happened about the same time that Beau died." And the special counsel said, and when was that? And Biden couldn't remember.
When Beau died.
Yeah. But again, Biden is the one who brought it up.
Right.
In the press conference, he made it seem like the special counsel was asking these invasive, insensitive questions. And because Her had reported that in his summary of why we're not going to charge the president for mishandling these documents, he couldn't remember key dates, like he couldn't remember when he was vice president, couldn't remember when the death of his son occurred and all that.
Look, Biden's I can't remember most of those things.
Right. But the point is, Biden tried to put it off on the special counsel. He asked me this question. I was really upset. How dare he ask this question? Make the president look sympathetic. But now the deep state, through CIA mouthpiece Ken Delanian of NBC News, basically saying, no, it wasn't. It was you who raised it. If you're raising it and you're going to blame it. So again, I think what we're witnessing here is the deep state trying to just let Biden know that his press cover is going away.
Okay, let's assume that the deep state wants to get rid of Biden. Either replace him on the ballot, or let him win, and then replace him after he's in office.
One or the other.
Which I'm telling you, they being the deep state, do not want Harris as president. No, they don't. Therefore, I see another Watergate moment coming. That is, prior to Watergate, there was a, Spiro Agnew. Right. Who was, he was the vice president, the original vice president for Nixon. Right. And there was some sort of a big scandal that he got accused of. And it was relatively minor in the scope of things, as I recall. And he was released from duties, so to speak. He was. And then they went after Nixon for. Let me finish. Then they replaced him with Ford. Right. And then they went after Nixon for Watergate. Well, he ended up resigning. Ford became president, and then a VP was appointed. So you had a president and vice president who were never elected. Correct. And it was Rockefeller who was the VP. Nelson Rockefeller, right. There may be something like that coming. I see because it coming. I think you are right. They definitely don't want Trump back in the White House.
which and that's we've not even really touched on that this week, and we won't, because anyone looking at from the outside, I mean, like the New York case where he was just ordered to pay like $355 million. Like he was convicted of fraud in a case where the judge refused to allow his attorneys to present a defense, and there are no aggrieved parties. How can you have a fraud case if there are no aggrieved parties? None of the banks testified against Trump because they all got paid back with interest. They all made money.
Right, therefore it's not fraud.
Right, but in New York, apparently it is. Now, this will be overturned on appeal.
Oh, of course it will.
But the bottom line is to just tie Trump up and to keep throwing this out there so that the media can report, oh, he's been convicted.
Yes, but here's the thing. Trump, for decades, has been involved in lawsuits.
Yeah.
He is a genius. He and his lawyers can run through lawsuits like butter.
Yep. But the bottom line is the deep state doesn't want him because he's a loose cannon. And clearly they don't think Biden can win. So how do they replace him? Don't know. It's going to be an interesting year. This will be one for the record books, the history books. But just remember, Christian, our mission is still the same. Make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Exactly. And judgment was pronounced long ago against the fallen realm entities, these unseen entities that are plotting with human beings to overthrow or simply prevent the return of our Lord Jesus Christ. He laughs with derision. The Lord sees this and he's laughed. He's already pronounced the judgment against them. You will die like men, he says to them. In Psalm 82, is that it?
Psalm 82, yes.
So,
though you are gods.
Psalm 2, Psalm 82, keep those with you at all times. If you ever get really upset, go read them.
Exactly. I was glad that Terry James, we were just on the panel with Terry James and Jonathan Brentner.
It was wonderful.
Upcoming episodes, 4 episodes coming up on Skywatch TV. Their new books, Hereafter and Nearing Midnight. Wonderful, wonderful discussions. And Terry brought up Psalm 2. And was really glad that he...
And it's so funny because I was about to bring it up and then he brought it up. I thought, that's even better.
Yep. We've got some events to let you know about as we are recording this on February 17th, coming up in less than a week. Next Friday, we will be at Morningside to record episodes of The Jim Baker Show. I
know that's going to be so much fun. And the Bakers, Lori and Jim, are on vacation. So it's going to be Mondo and probably Marisol. Oh, Ricky. Yay. We love Rick.
Yep. Talked to Joe Horn about that last night. He said he had a conversation with Ricky, and Ricky is sitting in as a guest host while Lori and Jim take some time off.
Sharp young man.
He really is. So Morningside, and you can find out about all of these events at our website, gilberthouse.org/calendar, I think. Anyway, you'll find it at gilberthouse.org. Should probably put it at PIDradio.com as well. But better yet, get our mobile app.
There you go.
Get our free app, iPhone, or rather iOS, iPad OS, Android, Amazon Kindle Fire, and there is an upcoming events section under our calendar tab, which has all of this, including maps. If you need to know how to get to Morningside, the map is there. They start recording generally about 11-ish. I think it
may be 11 on the dot with Rick.
With Ricky, yes.
He's pretty prompt.
Yeah, especially after his military training. He's 1,100 hours. So we will be there for that. It is free and open to the public, and they've got a wonderful Mexican restaurant there at Morningside. So come out down there, plan to have lunch. The virtual conference for Skywatch TV launches on February 29th. That will get you 90 days access to 24 presentations, all 6 Skywatch Films documentaries, and of course the feature, I think, will be Tom Horn's last presentation.
Oh, I can't wait to watch that. I've seen little bits and pieces from it, but, thank the Lord that Tom recorded that when he did, because not long after that, he was taken home.
That's right. So that is at defenderconference.com. That's where you sign up for that. Then in April, the first weekend, we will be in Dallas for the Prophetic Signs in the Heavenlies Conference from Hear the Watchmen. We will be there with, a great lineup. Let me bring it up here. There we go. Dr. Michael Lake.
Oh.
Yeah, we haven't seen Michael in a while.
No.
So David Hebner, Jamie Walden, Dave Hodges, Paul and Heidi Begley.
Oh.
Michael Bodea, David Paxton.
Yes.
Tav Rose, looking forward to seeing him meeting him for the first time. Pastor Casper McLeod and more. This will be at the Hilton DFW Lakes Conference Center in Grapevine, which is very close.
You and I, we're usually and the rest.
Yeah, that's right.
Like the professor and Marianne. I'll bake a pie.
Who's the professor? You'd have been the professor if we hadn't gotten married.
I know.
All right. Well, I don't look good in gingham.
Do you bake pies?
Yeah, no.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, hearthewatchman.com for that and all the rest of our upcoming events, conferences in June and July. And
we're all kinds of places, but you can find it at the app, and we encourage you to go there because we have a conversation area that's extremely, extremely active.
Yes.
Many, many people, especially in the prayer requests area, are sharing their burdens and their joys with one another, just like a big old family.
Amen to that. And that is really a blessing to see. The prayer request, the 41 messages I've got to check through on the prayer request section of the app as of this morning.
I'm remiss. I don't go in there nearly as often as I could. I do most of my research on my iPad, generally on my phone. And my phone, it's that little type one thing at a time.
Right.
I like typing on my laptop because I type fast, so does Derek. And that's where I want to do it, not this one finger at a time.
Yep. Well, so do check that out. And again, we've got some other events that will be added to that calendar here. For example, the Nephilim Anthropology Conference in late October in Scotland, but the details on that still forthcoming. And again, you'll find that at the app, but also gilberthouse.org. Check the upcoming events section of the calendar there.
Derek and I are really trying to reach outside of our little milieu, as Tom Horn would put it, and bring our message, what the Lord is showing us, to other congregations and to other meeting places. And if you are, say, in Scotland and you know we're going to be there and you would like for us to come to your church, let us know because we're already over there.
Yeah.
We may as well come.
That'll be the last weekend in October. That's the date for the Nephilim Anthropology Conference. That'll be in the Glasgow area. So, let us know, Derek or Sharon at gilberthouse.org.
Yep.
So, tomorrow, the Gilbert House Fellowship Bible Study and
probably be recorded in here again. There are so many things that would fascinate a puppy in the barn, and it's so big.
Yeah.
We can't really keep an eye on her. We're in the living room, dining room area of our house, sort of an open floor plan, and I can see exactly what she's doing for the most part. So there, for all I know, she could be really getting into something dangerous for her.
Don't want that. So, yes, check that out tomorrow. And tomorrow evening, Iron and Myth on View from the Bunker as we continue discussing portals, but with a focus on pharmakia and technology.
And I highly recommend that you enjoy the View from the Bunker episodes with a Bunker Buster coffee in your hand.
Forgot to mention the coffee. Thanks to Kevlar Joe's Coffee. We've got 3 blends. We've got the flavored blend cookies and cream inspired by Grace the Rescue Dog.
We need to have to come up with one for Glory.
I guess so.
Maybe a French vanilla with something added to it.
Yeah, call it Morning Glory. Yeah. Perfect name. Nick Fisher at Kevlar Joe's is providing that coffee, and you can find that at gilberthouse.org/store. Bunker Buster, the dark roast Colombian, and the really smooth Sumatran medium roast.
It's so tasty.
Called Snarling Dachshund.
Derek and I have tried the ground, and we've also tried the beans, and we make our coffee kind of strong. And we like beans. That way we can grind it to whatever consistency we want. Kevlar Joe would be grinding 5 or 6 different grinds if he, so, all right, I'm going to give you a super fine grind for espresso, or I'm going to give you this for your French press or whatever. So that's why we like beans. Yeah. But it's all so delicious.
He does a really wonderful job. He's a veteran, so it's a veteran-owned business.
Small
batches, and in the St. Louis area. So when I go up to St. Louis, maybe I can swing down to Herculaneum and say hi to Nick.
Yeah,
that'll be late May. Well, anyway, so do check that out. We can recommend it. In fact, got a cup of Snarling Dachshund. No, it's a Bunker Buster right here.
That's Bunker Buster. Yeah. Yes, it is.
So check that out, gilberthouse.org/store. And until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and for Grace and Glory Gilbert, bye-bye, everybody.
P.I.D. Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @P.I.D. Radio, or the P.I.D. Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.